Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Thursday on the game. Reminder, tomorrow we're going to be out at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia for the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest in the Vista. There is still one spot left, I'm being told. And if you want to be a part of it, it's only $400 for a team. Give Charwood a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up for the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly the Nest over in the Vista. Yesterday, we heard from the coordinators, Mike Shula, as well as Clayton White, and we'll go ahead and get this one out of the way because we knew it was going to be asked right off the jump. The origins of, we just call it the dump. We're just going to call it that. I feel like that's the best way to phrase it. The fake poop, the dump, whatever. The motivating tactic of Mike Shula that has now gone viral. Here is Shula's explanation.
That's the first question, huh? A long time ago, actually, there's a really good friend of mine, a line coach, had won 2 Super Bowls and at least 1 national championship. He would always use that phrase when kind of players weren't doing kind of what they've been asked to do. It's kind of like, right on your desk or whatever. So I thought that was kind of funny and kind of carried that with me. Got to the Giants, and I said it, I think I said it in that room right there, and sure enough, the next day there was that object right on my desk. Eli, man, you can thank Eli for that. Eli bought it. So, and then from there, I think it got to the Bills. The guys and I was in an office with the pro personnel staff of the Bills, who are the coolest pro personnel guys in the whole NFL. So they actually texted me when they heard it yesterday. But so Eli took it and ran with it.
So there you have it. Eli Manning is the culprit for the dump that's now being used as a motivating tactic for quarterbacks in film study.
Of course it is. Who else? You know, Eli seems to be the prankster type, honestly, so not really a big surprise.
The Manning's comedy is very underrated. Like, Peyton Manning, like when he hosted Saturday Night Live, some of the commercials he does, his self-deprecating humor is phenomenal. And like, Eli's not as good as him, but like, this seems very much up Eli's alley.
Exactly. And again, he's the youngest brother in that trio, with Cooper being Cooper's the oldest, right? And then Peyton follows. So not really much of a surprise, to be honest.
Yeah. So there you go. There's the origins of the dump, the fake poop, and we can put a bow on it at this point, because I feel like people are probably sick of hearing about it at this point.
Me too. I'm sick of hearing about it as well.
So more pressing matters when it came to Mike Shula was maybe finally giving us insight into where exactly he's going to be calling games from yesterday. If I grab the right mouse.
Yeah, probably going to be on the field, I think. I've been kind of leaning that way as all along, but and I think I can't remember if you guys asked me earlier, maybe in the off season, but I think there's pluses and minuses to both. I think being down there with the quarterbacks, with Norris, will be good. I think, and also I've got really good guys. We've got a really good offensive staff, and really good staff in general, but guys that'll you can count on the information from upstairs, and fast information, and guys that have cool heads and that are smart and fast thinkers. So that's very important to me to be able to get that information if I need it. The use of the iPads the last couple of years are really advantageous as well, but you can't get to those usually until after the series, unless there's a timeout.
So there you go. Sounds like he's going to be down there on the field, and that kind of goes in line with what he was doing last year, with being right there with Sellers to be able to talk about every single drive, on the bench and all that kind of stuff. And that answers the question that we've batted around so much over the past 8 to 9 months of where will Shula be when the game is happening.
It makes the most sense, I think, for him. Now, funnily enough, when he was in the NFL as a coordinator, he was always up in the booth, from the research that I did writing a story yesterday about the coordinator thing, since I did ask him about it. But when he was a QB coach or just an assistant on any staff, and even last year at South Carolina, he was always on the field. So this is a big change for him that maybe is a little bit not talked about enough, and that like coordinators are always seemingly up in the booth. Now, Clayton White, He has always been on the field. So it's not abnormal for South Carolina coaches or their coordinators to be on the field. And again, he trusts the guys that he has up in the box that will be like offensive assistants and whatnot.
I feel like defensive coordinators, for the most part, are more in line to be down the field. There are some that do call it from the booth, but I feel like more often than not, you'll see a DC down there on the sidelines.
Yeah, so it's not really like abnormal at all, like I said. And I think it's good from the standpoint of, like Shula said, like he gets to be right there with Lenoris during games, the other quarterbacks as well, just the entire offense, and he can be directly there to kind of like, you know, give any feedback or anything during games. And again, he'll have guys that he trusts up there relaying info.
Yeah, for anybody that's seen, you know, back when Dow Loggins was calling plays and they'd show a shot of him up there in the booth with, you know, his can of Diet Coke sitting in front of him. There was a team of people around him, all the assistants and analysts and all those kind of things. So essentially those guys will still be up there, you know, and they'll give the all 22 info that Shula needs, because that's my thing. Like if I was a play caller, I'd want to be up there where I could see everything myself. But some guys, you know, they're going to be able to trust the guys they have around them to say, hey, here's what you need to know. Here's what we see. Here's how you should do this, do that, and call the plays based on that. But yeah, that one-on-one with Sellers is something that was so valuable a year ago and does sound like something that Shula wants to keep going.
Yeah, so I think it's good to keep that continuity going. And look, there's going to be some, you know, real room for this offense to improve. Like, yes, they scored 30 points a game last year, but they, you know, they also need to improve in a lot of areas. This offense was probably middle of the pack in 2024. There's room to get there towards the top this season.
Well, one more here, as he was asked the question, I believe by you, if I remember correctly, on how different the offense might end up looking this upcoming season.
Yeah, it's hard. Heck, you guys might know more than me. I mean, just because, I mean, we've got so many new guys. It's hard to kind of like, I think if, you know, same thing last year, at this time, you know, you're not quite sure. We kind of think how it might unfold, and how we're going to be, but, you know, haven't played a game yet. You know, we've had a couple scrimmages, yes, spring ball, yes, practice against each other, but we still haven't played a game yet. So, you know, it's our job to kind of not, yes, you have to have direction, but you have to have some flexibility as well in case things are like, hey, you know, even though we like this, you know, we're really good at maybe something else that at first we didn't like as much. Hey, let's be flexible enough to allow these guys to go play fast and you know, we got a talented group. Let's let them go show their talent by doing what they do best. So it's hard for us to answer that question. I think, you know, I know it sounds boring, but it's probably just going to unfold as we go.
And I do wonder what could look different. And he did mention kind of playing fast there, and I'm not sure if this is what he was trying to allude to or not. Maybe playing with a little bit more tempo. Maybe you're just trying to get up, get reset, and get the next play going, because the good thing about playing fast is not allowing the defense to substitute. And again, if you don't substitute, they don't substitute. And if you got a drive rolling and you're going play after play after play after play and keeping them on their heels, tiring them out, that's maybe something that we didn't see a ton with Dow Loggins that maybe could look a little bit different.
I don't even think it was with Dow. Wasn't that something South Carolina did in the Tennessee game 3 years ago?
I feel like it was. Now, again, the debate of who actually called plays in that game is always going to be shrouded in mystery. But yeah, I feel like with Dow,
they've done it before, I think.
Yeah, they've done it before, but it wasn't like there are some teams that are tempo all the time. As long as they're moving forward, they're going to go.
Tennessee, I remember. Yeah, the leading up to that game, we were talking about like defensively, like Carolina's going to have to be ready for all the, which I think is why they had the wristbands in that game. Like they had to be ready for that tempo offense that Tennessee ran.
Right, and again, Tennessee runs that, you know, spread them out, run and shoot type of offense that kind of falls in line with that. But anybody can run tempo, and again, maybe that's something that Shula's looking to do a little bit more of, just by that mention of playing fast there. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. But in terms of them running tempo this year, I think it'd be good, because you look at last year, I think of like all the times where Illinois would take forever to substitute. Ole Miss would do the fake injuries and stuff. When you're speeding up the offense and doing these things to go hurry up and all that, maybe it tires out your players a little bit, but honestly, that might be what works best because we saw how many times last year South Carolina had to deal with that, and it became somewhat of an issue. So I think controlling the tempo of the game is going to be massive for this offense this year.
So South Carolina was 57th in the country in seconds per play last year with 26. So, again, kind of middle of the road. So, again, you can mix some tempo in there, maybe work a little bit faster and see if you can play that to your advantage.
It would be big. I mean, again, it would take a lot of conditioning and all that and being in the right shape to do it. But I think it's something that definitely needs to be considered going into this year.
Yeah, so we'll see about that. We'll get to more of what Shula and Coach White had to say as the day goes along. Coming up next, we're going to make some stat predictions. What do we think is going to happen this year on the stat sheet for South Carolina? That's coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Thursday on the game.
Yeah, it's hard. Heck, you guys might know more than me. I mean, just because, I mean, we've got so many new guys. It's hard to kind of like, I think if, same thing last year, at this time, you're not quite sure. We kind of think how it might unfold, and how we're going to be, but, haven't played.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Thursday on the Game. Again, everybody in Charleston can listen to us now on our new station, WIWF 96.9 HD3. If you have a radio in your car, just tune it to 96.9, press the HD button, and go to HD3, and you can listen to us out there in Charleston on the coast now. So appreciate everybody that is doing that. So we're still counting down the days till kickoff and making a lot of predictions in the process. And today, each one of us are going to throw out 3 stat predictions that we have for South Carolina. So I will let you go first. What is your first stat prediction for this team coming up this year?
I think we talked about it the other day. The offensive line has got to be better about bringing down those sacks. 41 in each of the last 2 years.
Yep.
Quite frankly, it could have been a lot more last year had Leonard Sellers not been Houdini out there. So I think this year, I think the offensive line is going to have about probably between 25 to 30 sacks given up this year.
Okay, which again is not like still the best, but it's
again,
better.
It's when you think about how many sacks they've given up over the years, like it's been awful. But like there were a few games last year where they gave up 0 sacks. So like if you have more of that this year, that's great.
Sure. And a lot of my belief that can happen, again, assuming that your tackles are still going to be Josiah Thompson and Casey Henry, the development of that with having a year of experience under their belts, their offseason working together and all that kind of stuff, development, that's where I have the hope that can be better. Because, again, most of your pressure comes from the outside, holding off the edge rushers, and those guys had their struggles last year. So I'm hoping having a full year of experience under their belt helps those two dramatically, and this offensive line as a whole gets better.
Definitely. My next stat prediction, I don't have a specific number on this. This is more of like what I think is going to happen. I got J.R. Johnson leading the team in tackles.
Okay.
I think that's something where a lot of the times we've seen a safety, most notably Nick Emanwari, lead the team in tackles over the last few years. But then there was that 1 year, 2 years ago, where Debo Williams in 2023 led the team with 113 tackles. I think that is something where you look at all that they lost in the linebacker room, Sean Murphy, J.O. coming in, Justin Okoronkwo, and then you have J.R. Johnson, who we've heard about forever. I know Debo was on here the other day hyping up what J.R. is going to bring for this team this year as a potential starter, which I'd be shocked if he didn't start. So I think he'll probably end up leading the team in tackles this year.
I do wonder, how his speed is compared to somebody like D. Knight, because D. Knight was second on the team in tackles last year because he was just all over the place. He was a sideline-to-sideline kind of guy, which, is why he was able to get those tackles numbers so high. Nick, though, Emanwari, so good at cleaning up things on the back end, which is what a great safety is supposed to do. I mean, he could come up, help you in the run, obviously tackle, a receiver downfield and those kind of things. If quarterback escaped contain in the pocket and was running down the field, he was able to do all of that. And you look at DQ Smith sliding into that role essentially and hoping he can live up to that. While again, Emanwari was obviously a special talent, so I'm not saying the DQ is going to do everything that he did. He's got a good chance at being that kind of same type of tackler that Nicky was, but I think J.R. Johnson's got a good shot at being that guy in the middle if his speed and strength and everything skill set wise is comparable to what is being said about him.
And I remember when we talked to Fred like 2 weeks ago now at the beginning of fall camp, we were I think someone asked him, like, who are you comparable to from last year's linebacker group? And he said Bam Martin Scott with the speed and stuff and the way he plays. So that's a pretty good comp for himself right there. And I think that really bodes itself well to him having a really strong year in that way.
And I think you also have to look at the fact that we don't know how deep this linebacker rotation is going to be. I think we feel pretty comfortable saying that it's going to be JR, Justin Okoronkwo, and Sean Murphy. Past that, we don't know. I mean, there's going to be guys that are going to come in and spell them for a couple plays, but I don't think you're going to be rolling 5-6 deep at this room on a regular basis. Those guys are going to be out there on the field a lot, and the more you're on the field, the more tackle opportunities you're going to get.
No, absolutely. And then my third one, again, this is another thing where I think we see marginal improvement in terms of the kicking this year. I think it's this really might be more of a hot take than anything, honestly, just because of how much the kicking struggled last year. But I think we're going to see Mason Love win the kicking job.
Okay.
And I think we're going to see him get closer to 80%.
All right. I'll take that. Again, Herrera last year was 71. And then, look, he missed some critical kicks in some big games, certainly. But he, for the most part, was okay. Not quite to the standard of what you expect to Carolina, especially coming off the heels of, Mitch Jeter, who was darn near perfect on his entire career here at South Carolina. So, yeah, I think getting back to around 80 would be good. Now, if he's 80% and all of those misses are critical game-tying or game-winning field goals, then we're going to have a different feeling about that. But and look, expecting somebody to be perfect is a tall ask, especially for somebody that's not gotten any experience in college so far. So missed kicks are going to happen, but I would feel comfortable at 80 or above. That's a good line.
Yeah, and Chris even mentioned it the other day. I think it was like 2015 or whatever. But Elliott Fry also kicked at 71%, and he's regarded as one of the best kickers in program history. So look, Herrera missed some really timely field goals last year. But again, he had the big kick against Clemson. I think we can't really disregard that. And he was all right. It's just I don't think he's as bad as people made him out to be.
And I feel like it's interesting, too, if Herrera was coming back for a second year, and we'd be like, oh, man, he's got a year of experience under his belt, we'd feel really good about that. Like, okay, last year was a little shaky, but you're going to take a step forward this year. Unfortunately, you're in an instance where, once again, whoever's kicking for you this year, whoever wins this battle between the four guys fighting for it, will have zero legitimate college kicking experience.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that none of these guys have ever kicked or punted or held or long snapped in a game. But that's why we hear Shane Beamer talk about it all the time. The trying to put these guys in tough situations as much as they can, simulate. We saw it at the spring game during halftime. We had the crowd roaring and stuff.
Yep.
We've seen it during the scrimmages or heard about it during these scrimmages where they do the 2-minute drives and you got to kick a game-winning field goal to win it. It's not going to really simulate what it'll kind of simulate what it's going to be like on a game day, but nothing will really prepare you for 80,000 people going crazy. And so that's something that is going to be an adjustment, a learning curve early on in the season.
Yeah, we'll get to my stat predictions on the other side as we wrap up hour number one of the Extra Point here on your Thursday. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry on the game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher with you on your Thursday here on The Game. Wrapping up hour number one. Coming up 10 o'clock hour for today's Garden Trust interview. You'll hear Chris Clark sitting down with Katie Shea Collins of Gamecock Women's Soccer as they've got their season underway. In fact, tonight you can watch the women's soccer team take on Ohio State at 7 o'clock on the SEC Network as Shelley Smith and company look to continue on their strong start to the year.
Yeah, men's soccer also gets going tonight, I believe, against College of Charleston. So,
yep.
Yeah, soccer is getting back going, and the games now count for real. So.
I've still got to get out to a game at the Graveyard. I've heard it's a lot of fun.
It's a good time out there, especially with those programs. They've both gotten. Women's soccer's been pretty good at South Carolina for a while, but I feel like men's soccer is kind of on the rise a little bit now. So definitely go ahead and check those programs out if you have not been to the Graveyard. It's pretty cool out there.
Yep, looking forward to that. Women's soccer off to a 2-0 start on the year already after defeating College of Charleston themselves and then USF this past Sunday. So we're talking about stat predictions for the upcoming season for South Carolina. You threw out yours there. I want to throw out a couple of mine now. I'll start off. Lenora Sellers having less than 8 total turnovers on the season. Last year, he threw 7 interceptions and lost 6 fumbles. Now, he did fumble the ball 11 times, lost over half of them with 6 there, which was one of the worst in the entire nation in terms of fumbles lost. I hope, my belief here is that this offseason, because like the interceptions weren't like egregious for the most part. It really was like when he's carrying the ball, just consistently getting knocked out. And I'm sure they've drilled into his head this offseason ball security. And I have the belief that that's going to be a lot better this year.
It has to be. Again, we've heard about it all offseason from Mike Shula, Lenore Sellers, Shane Beamer. Like, they've talked about it extensively that it's a priority to get that fixed going into this season. You look back at some of the games where they had ball security issues. I most notably think of the Alabama game where South Carolina just fumbled at critical points in the game. Some of them came by way of Sellers, and it's like Alabama gets the ball back at midfield, and then they go drive down and score. You look at a game like that you lost last year, as much as we wanted to talk about like Alex Herrera missing that 50-yard field goal or the fact that South Carolina missed out on that 2-point conversion to tie the game. Well, how about those fumbles? Again, South Carolina probably wins that. I think they had the lead 19-14 in the fourth quarter when they did fumble, and then Alabama went down, scored, and took the lead. So you minimize those this year, I think it's going to make a marginal difference.
Especially with the uncertainty on defense right now, and our thoughts and opinions on them can certainly change once games actually start being played. But with my hesitancy to know how good this defense is, you cannot give other teams anything, especially on short fields. Like if you're fumbling at your own 35-yard line, well, guess what? They don't have to go very far to get points at that point. And that could end up being something that comes back and bites you. And again, we've heard from Beamer, we've heard from Shula, we've heard from Sellers himself. This has been a focal point of this offseason in terms of his development that I hope is going to pay off.
It has to. It has to. You cut that number in half down to like 3 or 4 fumbles, maybe even less than that.
Look, I'm not going to say he's not going to turn the ball over.
He'll turn the ball over.
You're a quarterback starting every single game. There's going to be turnovers. It's going to happen. That's just football, but significantly less than last year.
And we talk about the fumbles. We also need to talk about those interceptions. 7 of them last year. Not bad when you have 18 touchdowns and over 2,500 yards passing, but definitely got to minimize the interceptions as much as we talk about the fumbles as well.
So another stat prediction for me here, and I haven't been shy about this one. I think the combination of Nick Harbor and Mazio Bennett will combine for over 1,200 yards and 15 total touchdowns this upcoming year.
I like it. So you have it kind of split down the middle.
Yeah.
So you'd be happy with 600 yards each.
Yeah, if they both had 600 yards and, one had 9 touchdowns and one had 6, I think that's very solid, right? And look, I think the ball's going to get spread around a lot. We talk about what you have it tied in with Brady Hunt, Jordan Dingle, Mike Smith, guys like that. You obviously have running backs who can get involved in the passing game too, like Oscar Attaway. So it's not just going to be, hey, Sellers going to just keep throwing to one of these guys over and over and over again. So I'm not expecting like crazy numbers, but you're essentially talking about doubling the production that those guys had a year ago, though I do think it's very possible.
And imagine what that would do for the room if those two guys are out there doing their thing, doubling their numbers from last year. That's a big improvement. And we talk about one of those guys needing to probably get over 1,000 yards. Maybe that would be like really, really good for this offense. But Heck, honestly, if those guys are doing about 600 yards apiece, that's so much better than what you had last year. Like, your leading receiver last year was a tight end, Josh Simon, with 500 yards. If you have two 600 guys, I can only imagine that's going to do wonders for what this offense could do potentially.
Yeah, and look, I have the belief that Harbor is finally going to take that step, right? And again, we saw it towards the end of last year, but I think with an entire offseason focused on football, the rapport he and Sellers have, I think you're going to see a very good, consistent connection with those two guys. And maybe it's a situation where Harbor has, 800 yards and Mazio Bennett has 450 or something like that.
That's
I'd take
even
that
better.
too.
That's even
That'd be
better.
great.
That's even better.
But it seems like if Harbor's going to take that next step and become a well-rounded, bona fide receiver, this will be the time for it to happen. And again, if he plays well enough, he can go to the league after this. He can get drafted. He'll be 3 years out of high school at that point.
Straight up, I'll be shocked if Nick Harbor doesn't have at least doubles his number in terms of getting to 600 yards or more. Like, all the work he's put in, skipping track, I feel like something's got to give, and I think it's going to pay off for him big time.
Last one for me here. Oscar Attaway more than doubles his 77 carries from last year. Again, I'm assuming Faison's not going to play, so that means Oscar Attaway is going to be RB1. Now, again, he's never had the most carries on a team before. Going back to his time at North Texas, again, he was the guy that was second in line behind Rocket Sanders last year, and Rocket got about 60% of the carries of all the running backs a year ago. But look, Oscar Attaway, seems like it's your time to step up, and you're going to be the guy. Now, again, you're going to see a lot of Auguste Dave, you're going to see a lot of Jordan Howell, and maybe down to Matthew Fuller as well. But, I mean, it seems like Oscar Attaway is going to be the main guy in that running back room, and he's going to get a lot of touches this year.
At least at the start of the year, I think he's your RB1, right? And we've seen him before to where it's like he's had 100-plus carries at North Texas. Like, I think he averaged in his time with the Mean Green over, I think, 113 carries per season, basically. I think there was like 1 year we had a little under 100. But the point is, he's gotten a bulk of carries before. 77 last year. I think he's definitely getting well over into the hundreds this year. And I just wonder, we saw the game he had last year, and he was hurt in that game. He was banged up, man, with the boot on his foot. Can he take that next step forward, be completely healthy this year, and take firm grasp of that RB1 role right out of the gate?
Now, if you told me that Faison's going to get granted eligibility next week, and I'm wrong about this prediction, that's okay with me, because that means Faison will, be playing and be your RB1 then. But again, I'm just under the assumption that it's not going to happen until told otherwise.
Yeah, we're envisioning everything here like there's no Faison out there.
Yeah.
So until he's cleared, and we can go back and talk about this again if he ever gets cleared before the season starts, but we're anticipating Oscar Attaway, Isaiah Gustave, those guys carrying the football week 1.
Does Beamer still get asked about this once the season starts? Because, again, every press conference, there's a Faison update at some point. But
he's bringing it up.
He is. Now,
which it would be asked if he didn't.
Yeah. Because, again, I think once we actually get into the season, we're just under the assumption of it's probably not going to happen unless the NCAA changes their mind or just decides to make some kind of ruling. I don't know. Again, it's ridiculous that we've gotten this far, but here we are.
Yeah, they're waiting in line, I guess. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll get asked about it a little, but I really hope it's not every week. I just want them to get an answer.
You might hear about him talking about it on Carolina Calls coming up tonight, by the way. 7 o'clock, first one of the new football season, where, again, he'll basically be recapping everything that's happened in the offseason. So I don't know how intimate into the details he's going to get, but I'm sure Faison will come up.
Yep, I'm sure it will. So
it's hour number 1 in the books of The Extra Point. Coming up next in the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating, we'll hear Chris Clark's conversation with Katie Shea Collins of Gamecock Women's Soccer. That's up next here on your Thursday on The Game.
All right, welcome in, everyone. It is the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. I'm Chris Clark, rolling along with you for the next little while, and special guest in today, it's Katie Shea Collins from Gamecock Women's Soccer. Katie, how's it going? Glad we can make this happen.
Hey, it's going great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's an honor. Really glad to have you. Enjoyed watching you so far at South Carolina, and you're in season 2 now, and we've got a lot to dive into, of course. But I want to start off with just a little of your personal background and kind of dive right into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you grew up, how you got started with soccer, what you like to do off the field. Like, let's just go into all that first right off the bat.
Yeah, well, thanks for keeping up with the team. I'd say, before South Carolina, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
And 2 amazing parents, and I have a twin brother. His name's Patrick. And funny enough, he actually goes here as well, even though we're pretty far, from South Carolina. And he's a nursing major. And I tell everyone this, we might be the 2 most competitive people you will know, because not only are we the same age, but we also have very similar hobbies.
Yeah.
So, I started soccer at probably 3 years old, if that counts, at the YMCA. I think it was more of, holding hands and just walking around, but, I'm going to count it. And, I played basketball up until freshman year of high school. I played a little bit of dance, a little bit of ballet, cheer, all that type of stuff. Wasn't my jam, but kudos to people who can do that. I'm more of a soccer player. And then, my brother played football and baseball and wrestling. So I've grown up playing those sports too. So, if he could do it, then I have to do it better. Right. And I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, how did you find your way to the University of South Carolina? I know you had a lot of options coming up, but, how did that whole process unfold?
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a crazy story. So, like I said, I'm from Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
My mom went to Vanderbilt. My mom works at Vanderbilt. So I kind of just grew up around the SEC, especially University of Vanderbilt, right? And it was kind of like one of those dream schools, and they're a fantastic program. And I even went on a visit there, but I was like, this just doesn't feel like the best place for me. And so I continued to go on visits, and my cousin, his name is Sawyer. He is 2 years older than me. He actually just graduated. Oh, I guess 4 years older than me. He just graduated last year. And he was at the University of South Carolina. So I was like, why don't I go visit a camp and also go visit Sawyer? And I knew South Carolina had a great soccer team, but I just didn't really know much about the coaches. I'd never seen them play before. And I remember I came, it was probably around September for my official visit here. And I loved it from day one. And I was like, yep, this is going to be it. I loved that they had a men's program. So, we can practice with them. And then I loved just the school and the area of Columbia. It's a huge city kind of, it's the capital. So there's a lot going on. And I knew right from there that I was going to commit. I'm surprised I didn't commit on the spot. It took me maybe a week just because my mom told me, take a breath, but I loved it.
So you came in September for your official visit. Was there a football home game at that time?
Yes, sir, there was. And that's next to none. South Carolina, I said this before, South Carolina knows how to show up. And not even just for the soccer games. I think our last game we had 5,300 people. But at that football game, it is insane. You couldn't even think. The freaking stands were rumbling as I'm standing there. And I was like, yeah, this is it.
So you grew up familiar with the SEC, obviously. Yeah. Did you go check out, were you ever going to SEC football games anywhere? Did you watch SEC football games?
I definitely watched them. I wouldn't say I went to a lot at Vanderbilt, just because back then I don't think it was as big as it is now for, Vanderbilt. But I went to a lot of basketball games. Like I said, I played basketball, so we were one of those, younger teams who got to play at halftime, so that was fun. But it was mostly soccer.
You mentioned hobbies, and you mentioned a bunch of the different sports that you either played or kind of dabbled in from an early age. What are the, away from the pitch hobbies still I know you don't have a ton of time as a student athlete, right? But what do you still like to do when you get an opportunity?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's good to take a break from soccer as well, all that stress. So something I do is I read a lot. Actually, I love reading books. I like fantasy, I like fiction. I like just kind of go into a different world type thing. And also I started this last spring and I loved it. What we do is we adopt a dog for a day because as an athlete, I can't, I just can't have that responsibility of having a dog. I wish, right? But we would go to Final Victory in West Columbia, and they would give us a dog, and we could take her to the park. We could take them to go get a pup cup. We could literally do whatever we wanted with that dog, and we got it from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and it was the best. And it's so awesome just to have like a little cuddly companion, that you can take all around Columbia. And so I hope I can keep doing that in the fall.
I don't know, like that on one hand sounds amazing. On the other hand, I feel like I would end up adopting like 20 dogs,
It's dangerous for sure.
Like, that is tough.
Yeah, it was so hard. Actually, they also kind of had weird names. There was one dog, her name was Alkaline. It was, I know, crazy name, but she was the sweetest thing ever. And I honestly think I had tears when I was giving her back. That's why I haven't been back in a little bit. I needed some time to, take away to myself before I can go back because I might adopt her.
Did you go like big dog, little dog? Did you mix it up a little bit?
We did whatever. I mean, and they're also like whatever you want, they probably have at the shelter. And so you can request anything. But usually we did big dogs. I think once or twice we did small dogs. And you also can do cats if that's your thing. So
man, I honestly didn't know you could do that. That is in my household, we're trying to solve the same problem. I grew up with dogs. We don't have one right now. My daughters are all over us, especially one of them, like, can we please get a dog? And we're like, we're too busy. We're too busy. Like, it's a responsibility. We're trying to teach them, like, when you have a dog, you don't just pet it and that's it. Like, there are responsibilities. And so I might have to bring that up.
You should.
Yeah.
But it's dangerous. I'm telling you, it's dangerous. You might get stuck with Alkaline, then I'm going to be jealous, and then I'm going to be coming over, and I can pet sitter for you.
That's fine. Yeah. See, that's the good part. Like we tried to like do a little sneaky. I have family that lives in Columbia too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tried to get my mom like, hey, why don't y'all get a dog? Right. Cause then we can just come and pet the dog and okay, thanks.
Their responsibility. I like it. That's smart.
You take it to the vet, all that stuff. So
just wait until your children do that to you.
Yeah. Oh,
and what are you gonna do?
I know it's gonna be tough. But shout out Final Victory. So, little plug for them if you want to go check those folks out. All right. So, another thing that we like to talk about here on the show, we ask all the athletes that we have on. We're big foodies. I don't know if you are. Are you more of like, are you a foodie? Or are you more like, I just eat because like it's necessary to eat, especially as an athlete? Or are you like big into like, let me go check out the local spots? Do you cook?
I'd say I definitely like to check out the local spots. My boyfriend, actually, he's on the men's team. I'd say he's the big foodie, loves going to new places, doesn't want to try the same place twice. So I definitely would say I've gotten around Columbia a little bit.
Yeah. Any favorites, as far like just a dish? You don't talk about the specific place, but like, what's your go-to meal? If you're like, it's not like, don't have to worry about training, don't have to worry about anything. Like, let me just go get something good. Like, what are you cooking? What are you getting?
Right. Okay. So I probably go to this place like once a week, and it's, a little basic, but fresh poke. I love me some fresh poke. And I know it's a chain. So, but somewhere that I actually recently went, it was incredible. And I've never had it. And I'm from Nashville. It's called Tupelo Honey. Have you
Tupelo Honey. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was delicious. I had their chicken and waffles, and I think I'm going to have to go back there almost every day. Yeah, it was fantastic.
All right. So with you being from Nashville too, another thing that I feel like we got to ask is music. I mean, you go to Nashville, I mean, you can walk up and down Broadway at about 9:30 a.m. and go hear a band, which is really cool. And then you can be there about as late as you want to. But you a big music person? Like you?
Oh yeah, I'd say I love me some country music.
Okay,
I know everyone in Nashville does. I feel like I wouldn't be able to say I'm from Nashville if I didn't like it. Oh yeah, love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so I want to get into soccer. We've covered some off the field stuff. We'll reserve a lot of this from the other side after we take a break here. But you mentioned how you got to South Carolina. What was the biggest like year one adjustment for you that, you know, going from playing, I assume you played club, you know, high school, and then you get to freshman in the SEC. What was the biggest adjustment for you?
Yeah, I think it was just trying to spot a fantastic program. And I remember when I came in South Carolina, we come really early in the summer. We come about 2 months earlier than a lot of other schools do. So I was here in June. And it's great because the girls teach us kind of how we play before the coaches do. But when I tell you that it was like learning soccer all over again, I've been playing it for 15 years. I was like, I don't think I know how to play soccer. So it was kind of breaking down to the basics and then building myself up and learning from there.
Good stuff. All right, Katie Shea Collins sitting in with me here on the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Got to take a quick time out, and on the other side, we'll dive more into soccer. We will be right back. If you are looking for a reliable local roofing company to help your home or business with your roofing needs, check out our friends at Classic Roofing. Joe Reeder, Max Sawyer, our guys, friends of the program here. They can help you take good care of your roof. That can be challenging, but you don't have to do it alone. They have years of expertise under their hats. Their local company, again, their families live right here in the Midlands. And the guys at Classic Roofing are GAF certified roofers. Only about 7% of roofers nationwide even have that certification. They can do inspections, installations, replacements, and repairs on your roof. You can visualize your new roof and what it would look like at classicroofingsc.com. You can check out their reviews and get a free estimate there. classicroofingsc.com, or give them a call, 803-590-7870. That's the reliable roofers over at Classic Roofing. All right, welcome back in. Chris Clark here. Listen to the game. Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Hanging out for one more segment here with Katie Shea Collins from Gamecock Women's Soccer. And you were telling us before we hit the break there just about your adjustment coming into South Carolina and almost having to like learn soccer over. Just from like I assume mainly like just this is how we play, right? Mm-hmm. Coach Smith, the rest of the girls that were here before you, that were seniors, that had more experience, just kind of teaching you their ways. And that's something that I hear a lot when we talk to Shelly Smith, when we talk to other girls on the team. They tend to really talk a lot about defense. It seems like one of the hallmarks of this program. Like, what is it about the way that this team plays defense and how like important that is to them?
Yeah, you're hitting it on the nail. I mean, defense is like Coach Jamie's baby on our team is what we like to say. For us, we believe that you can't win games without playing defense, right? And it doesn't matter how many goals you score. If you aren't giving your best on defense, you're going to lose the game. And as a forward, right, my kind of main job is to score the goals. But there's a lot of programs that are like, you know, forwards don't have to do much. You don't have to defend. Well, here at South Carolina, that is quite the opposite. I think one of my main jobs is to defend on top of scoring the goals, and I love it because I think a lot of teams don't really expect that. And so, you know, maybe even though I'm in the front line, like I'm running all the way back to try to win that ball and help my team. And so it's definitely a big part of how we play. And I think the better your defense is, the easier it is on offense, if that makes sense.
What do you remember about game one, like very first college soccer game? What stands out?
Yeah. So for actually two different experiences, I'd say for my first preseason game, right, yeah. We played a pro team here. It's called Carolina Ascent. Mm-hmm. I remember I felt like I had a chicken with my head cut off. I had no idea what I was doing, right? I was just running and running. I probably had 8 miles that game just because I had no idea where I was going, right? However, let's go to our first real game. It was against Furman. Let's just say I don't really remember much. I think I like blacked out because I was lucky enough that I had a hat trick that game. And when I tell you I don't remember anything, I don't remember what I did after I scored. I just remember my team kept playing me that ball and trying to build me up. And it was just an electric atmosphere because I think we had almost 7,000 people there. So it was definitely a game I will never forget.
So you mentioned, and this is something I definitely wanted to hit on. So you're giving an opening here. You mentioned you don't really remember like what you did. I love watching your celebrations, like your goal celebrations. I feel like they're kind of next level, right? Like,
hey.
What do you like think about it before? Do you just go off of like whatever comes to you?
Yes, I don't think at all. I don't know if you can tell. I'm just full of like passion and joy when I play. And when that ball hits the net, no matter like it's my 13th goal or my second goal, I'm just so excited. And let's say last Thursday or last Sunday when I scored, I couldn't even tell you what I did. And then, you know, you look on Twitter and it's on Twitter and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? But I can't help it. But no, it's not planned. It's just straight from me.
Just straight joy. That's what I see. Yeah, because you're not like, you know, doing some like elaborate like thing. It's just like running around, like going crazy, basically. Yeah, which is awesome. So how do you feel? So we kind of covered like how you felt going into last year, first couple games. Like, what's the difference in Katie Shea Collins in year 2 versus year 1, as far as just like how you felt going into the season?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that I was very lucky enough to have a pretty good freshman year. And I feel the pressure, but I've also learned from great players. Like last year we had Kat Berry, who just went pro. Fantastic. I learned so much from her. She told me that pressure's the privilege, and I'm going to take that with me as far as I go. And it's sometimes, you know, before a game, you're like, woof, like I feel like I have to perform. But when you really think about it, it's not about the performance of how many goals I score, how many assists. It's as long as I just put as much effort and as long as I just keep that joy with me when I play. Like that's my 2 biggest goals. So this year I'm coming in confident. This year I'm coming in with the most effort you're going to see. I hope I'm just the workhorse on the field. And also, I'm just really excited because we got a lot of new girls, and I think we're going to be really good.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit. So we know that, the soccer team lost Kat and some others that had been integral pieces, like you said, some new faces coming into this year, but still a really talented team that Coach Smith seems to feel pretty good about in terms of challenging. What do you feel like stylistically this team is pretty similar to last year? Do you feel like there's some key differences? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we lost 16 players on our team. So we are literally halfway a whole new team. And we lost 8 out of the 11 starters. So, wow, right? I would say we are quite different tactically. I would say we still have the same, like, game plan, and Jamie and Shelly, they still teach it the same way. But I would say, are a little bit more technical this year. I think we have a little bit more threats from multiple people forward. And also, I think our back line has a really good connection right now that I'm really excited to see. And it's actually led by Gracie Fala, who is an incredible, I would say, the best defender in the SEC. And I'm biased for sure, but she is phenomenal. And so I'm just really excited to see what we do this year.
Another thing we've definitely got to hit on is your involvement with U.S. soccer, right? Being able to train with them, compete with them. How was that experience, and what did you take away from it?
Yeah, I mean, I can still remember when I first got my first email from them. So I joined like ECNL, which is our club for soccer, pretty late. So I would say I didn't get my name out there until I was pretty much kind of past that age where people started getting into the national team. And it was going into my junior year, and I was actually doing a science project with my brother, and it was like 9 p.m. at night, and I was just like, ready to be done with this, And I get that email from U.S. Soccer. Of course, click it right when it comes up, and it just says, congratulations. And I just drop everything and run to my mom, and I'm like already like bawling, and I don't even know what it says, like what? And my brother comes in with my iPad at the time, and he starts reading it out loud, and I got invited to go play at the Pan American Games in Chile, Santiago, Chile. And it was my first time ever with a national team, and I was going to be gone for 4 weeks. So that was a little nerve-wracking, right? Like these are with players at the time, Claire Hutton, who now is at the Kansas City, and she's on the full national team now. Giselle Thompson on the full national team now. So at the time I was a little nervous, but now, I mean, I've been invited back year after year. I don't even know how many camps I've been to now. And it is just the best experience. I feel like I've learned so much, and going from the girl who knows nobody, doesn't know how U.S. soccer is, to now kind of being a vet in my age group and being able to teach other girls who just get invited. It is so cool, and it's such an honor because there's no bigger team that you could play other than on the national team. And my goal is to keep getting invited back. I hope eventually, in these next 1 or 2 years, I can get invited to the U23s, which is the team right under the full national team.
Would be pretty, needless to say, it would be a pretty awesome experience to be able to do that and to be able to make the full national team. I mean, that's got to be something that everybody dreams about, right?
Right. No, I mean, as a kid, I wore the jersey, I wore the Alex Morgan jersey. And then now being able to play with Hope Solo in the summer, I played with her in a tournament, and being to see how she carries herself and hear her experiences, and then being like, wow, like maybe I actually can make that dream come true. Now I'm almost more motivated because I want to give my full effort. And if I don't make it, then I don't make it. But as long as I know that I gave literally everything I got in the tank, that's all that matters to me.
You mentioned the men's soccer team here at South Carolina. Coach Annan looks like he's put together a pretty good squad for this year too. Just give me your thoughts real quick, if you're willing, on just kind of following that program and the ties, the integration. It seems like those teams support each other a good bit here at USC.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you go to any of the games, you can see on the other sideline, the boys will be watching us and we're watching them. And I think we get pretty loud, especially, we like to chirp the other teams, help how we can. But it's so nice. I mean, here at South Carolina, there's only 2 SEC men's teams, right? And I mean, they're in a different conference, but there's barely any other school that have a men's program here. And so that's special. I mean, we share the same facilities, so we see them almost every day. And it's great because, especially in the summer, when we're not training with, our coaches, we all will go play pickup. And I think it helps us play a lot, and it helps us grow connections. And like you said, they got a bunch of really good transfers. And so they start their season, I think, this week. So I'm really excited to see how they do. I think their bar is set really high for them this year.
Okay, Shay, tell us the next opportunity. I think we're recording this on a Wednesday. It's playing here on a Thursday, so you guys will play Thursday night.
Yes, sir. 7 p.m.
against Ohio State. So make sure you get out there, support Katie Shea Collins, Shelly Smith, and everybody on the women's soccer team. Hey, this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a busy schedule. It's been awesome to catch up with you, learn more about you, your game, your background. Really appreciate everything.
No, thank you so much for having me. I hope you guys have a great day.
All right, that's same to you. That's Katie Shea Collins from Gamecock Women's Soccer. We'll take a quick timeout. Be right back on the other side. It's the Garnet Trust Hour, presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating.
All right, folks, let me tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media. The beautiful thing about it is you can take your dreams for that home, make it a smart home, dreams for your man cave, dreams for the living room, and they can take whatever you're thinking about and then just turn it into a reality. You can hit them up today, integratedmediainc.com, or give them a phone call. It is 803-948-8327. Their services include basically anything to do with your TV, your surround sound, your smart home services, or securities and cameras. If you work from home, for me, it was all about my home office. Didn't really have a great connection to the Wi-Fi. Needed hardwired internet, so they came in. They ran Ethernet throughout the home into my office, into my wife's office, and made sure we had a great connection there. And then we went a step further with whole home Wi-Fi. They can also hang TVs. They can hide the wires for you, and they can go all in on that man cave too. Hit them up today. Again, for more information, integratedmediainc.com.
Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head, Jack Beltry, Wes Mitchell hanging out with you on your Thursday. Again, you just heard Chris Clark's conversation with Katie Shea Collins of Gamecock Women's Soccer entering into her second season. And, man, we talked to Coach Shelly Smith on Friday right after their season opening win against College of Charleston. Picked up another win this past Sunday against USF. And tonight over at the Graveyard, taking on an Ohio State team as they look to get themselves to 3-0 to start the season.
Yeah, it's that was a good interview, by the way. So shout out to Chris for a good job with that one. And, yeah, looking forward to seeing what the women's soccer team does this year. Big year for the men's soccer team coming up as well as they get started tonight against COC. So looking forward to seeing what these teams do. And, yeah, definitely get out to the Graveyard. It's a good time over there. I would recommend it to you, Tyler, too.
Yeah, and if you can't get over there, that game will also be on the SEC Network, so you can watch it as well. Again, a good start to the season so far, and I'm sure we'll be checking in with Coach Smith quite a bit as the season goes along, and hopefully they can get themselves back to the tournament and make another good run.
Yeah, Katie Shea, a bona fide star, too. Came in last year as a freshman, played a bunch, was super highly recruited. I think there were very high expectations for her, like within the program, and lived up to all of them. One thing we talked about with Coach Shelly Smith was it's going to be a little bit different this year. There's no Cat Berry, in terms of just kind of having that dynamic duo that teams have to prepare for both of them. And, so I would say so far so good, though, for Katie Shea. And she's got a chance to just be that next in line of just South Carolina women's soccer greats that they tend to just churn out here, it seems like.
Yeah, special freshman season for her, and obviously team off to a good start for the 2025 season as well. I wanted to get into this, and Wes, this is something that you mentioned briefly on the Takeover Hour yesterday, but we didn't have a lot of chance to dive into it. The new metric that the college football playoff has added in for this upcoming year as far as criteria that they're looking at to determine their rankings and what teams ultimately make the second ever 12-team college football playoff. And this year they've added the metric of record strength, which, and this is per their definition, will help the committee determine how teams performed against their schedule, rewarding those that beat high-quality opponents while minimizing the penalty of losing to one. These changes will also provide minimal reward to beating a lower-quality opponent while imposing a greater penalty for losing to one. So essentially, if you're beating top 10 teams, you're going to be viewed a lot more highly. If you're losing to top 10 teams, it won't ding you as much. And if you're beating up on, G5 teams or FCS teams, they're not going to count that as much. Certainly if you lose to one of those, though, that is going to be a lot more detrimental to your overall resume for the playoff.
This just feels very logical, to be honest. Like, this feels like the way...
I feel like they should have been doing this anyway, right?
Like, this should have always been the case. Like, yes, you should be rewarded for going to Death Valley last year and taking down number 12 Clemson. Like, the fact that South Carolina... And again, there's nothing you could do about the teams in front of you that you lost to earlier in the year and them kind of standing in your way and kind of having the same record. Like, you're not going to, as you move up in the rankings, it's tougher to make a significant climb as opposed to, like, if South Carolina was at, like, number, just entering the top 25, it's a lot easier to jump multiple spots compared to you're at 15, you really can't go anywhere. But it's good to see you're getting rewarded now for having those types of quality wins, because you should be encouraged to play a tougher schedule. You shouldn't have to feel like, yeah, we need to play all cupcakes because what we do doesn't matter. And now playing cupcakes in a lot of ways, It seems like the value of that is kind of like diminished. Like, you shouldn't be playing those types of teams. You should be playing the best of the best week in, week out. And that's what I think everyone wants to see.
I am slightly confused because I did think just logically that this was already a part of the consideration. And what I don't understand, so are they saying, oh, we didn't consider those things at all previously? Like, I mean, that seems just insane.
Maybe they're reinforcing it?
Yeah, like
so is this
more emphasis, I guess, is the way to describe it?
Yeah, are they like, what's the word? Are they codifying it? Like, basically saying, let's put this into words.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, is this semantics? Is this a real thing? Like, are we now? I guess it's important to to acknowledge there's a difference in saying schedule strength. And a lot of times we use these two things interchangeably.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule strength is literally who did you play. So you could be the worst team in the world and you could still have a top 4 schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, they played the 3rd most difficult schedule in the world. They lost all their games. So you could be terrible and still have a great strength of schedule.
Sure.
I thought we were all intelligent enough to like acknowledge, okay, it does matter. It matters what you do against that schedule,
Yeah.
which I believe this is the semantics, like this is the wording of actually saying that. You're saying your record strength. So it is your record, what you did while playing those difficult teams. But don't we already logically consider that? I mean, or is this a thing there the SEC wants for them to acknowledge, hey, this needs to be a huge part of what you consider after all the pushback last year. You know, you had obviously South Carolina, Alabama, and Ole Miss people all on your case saying, hey, one of these teams should have got in.
Yeah, it's basically saying it goes back to the argument of would a 9-3 Alabama have been better served in the playoff than an 11-1 Indiana or at that point 11-2 SMU after they had lost the ACC championship game. And again, conferences are so different. It's you're comparing apples to oranges in a lot of ways because you don't have as much crossover between these two. But the belief is that a 9-3 team in the SEC would typically be better than one of those teams. And of course, those two teams got bounced pretty quickly in the playoff. One thing for me that's interesting because of course Carolina lost to Alabama and Ole Miss last year and ended up in the rankings behind them, which based on what we understood the way the rankings worked, you can't argue with that. But at the same time, when you add in this now record strength where they're talk about being penalized more for losing to unranked teams or lower-end teams, it begs the question in my mind. I don't think this would have put South Carolina in, but given the fact that Carolina's 3 losses were to LSU, Alabama, and Ole Miss, and Ole Miss, lost to an unranked Kentucky team, lost to an unranked Florida team, Alabama lost to unranked Oklahoma, Alabama lost to unranked Vanderbilt, could that have put those two teams in a position where South Carolina could have still been ranked above both those teams despite losing to them because their losses were technically better at the end of the day and the losses for those teams were more egregious? You see what I'm saying here?
And keep in mind, 3 of those 4 teams you just mentioned with Kentucky, Vanderbilt, teams like that, South Carolina and Oklahoma, South Carolina beat them pretty handedly throughout the season. So, yeah, I think that makes sense in a lot of ways. The other thing I kind of wanted to add off to that, imagine you're playing like a top team beginning of the year. Let's go back to last year when Georgia Tech beat Florida State.
Yes.
Florida State, top 10 team in the country. Florida State, as we all know, ended up being awful. Now, how do you judge that win, right? Do you judge it off the merits of, hey, we'd be a top 10 team beginning of the year. We can't control if they suck or not, and going on throughout the season. How do you kind of judge that in terms of beating a high quality? Do we consider Florida State a low quality opponent based off of that? Obviously, by brand, they're not, but in terms of record, sure.
And that's obviously an extreme example because nobody foresaw them being as bad as they were.
But it happens all the time where you see a team early in the year upset a team, and that's like, oh, man, that team went on a downward spiral, and they ended up being awful.
Yeah, and I guess that's the good reason why the rankings don't come out until November because you have a pretty good idea of what teams are at that point in time, and they're not, I guess, supposed to look at the AP poll, but still, the AP poll is a metric that helps them decide where teams stand before they make those first rankings. But I don't know. Do you look at where they were ranked at the time, or do you look at where you currently view them as the committee in terms of what the quality of that win is? Because I think, when Alabama loses to Vanderbilt, oh my God, that's the worst loss in the world. But you look at it actually Vanderbilt's a little bit better than we thought they were going to be, so maybe you don't deem them as much. I don't know. But going back to Wes's point, I kind of thought they were doing this anyway, but now they're clarifying, so I guess they'll really do it now.
Yeah, I think you take the whole picture into consideration. Florida last year, Florida State is your perfect example. But by the end of the year, nobody should be saying that's a quality win if you beat Florida State.
Yeah.
I think early on, and you're not putting out the rankings early on anyway, but early on, we were going, hey, great job by Georgia Tech. That's a huge win for them. We didn't realize everybody was going to beat up on FSU the entire season. So I do think you have to adjust. Tyler, to your question, Dude, I think if all things are equal, like everything else is equal, then yeah, if like head to head should matter if you're determining, between two teams. However, if everything isn't equal, then I think all those other things matter. I think who did you lose to should matter as well. Did you control a game? Like for example, South Carolina beat the brakes off of Oklahoma last year. They controlled it. They really, even though it was a fairly close game score-wise, they kind of controlled Vandy a good bit better than just about anybody else did last year. Yeah. So I think you take that into consideration. Alabama lost to Oklahoma last year. So all those things should matter. I mean, none of what we're talking about matters for last year. Yeah. But, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about the SEC, like going into this year. This thing is deeper than it's ever been with teams that are going to be right in that 9-3, 8-4 conversation. So there's going to, it might be different teams, but there's going to be 3 or 4 teams, again, right in the same position that South Carolina was in last year when this thing comes down to it.
We'll see how these new metrics change the way we look at the rankings when they start coming out in the month of November. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Arkansas has a new policy with field storming. Will it work? We'll discuss that coming up next. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating on your Thursday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Tyler Head, Jack Veltri, Wes Mitchell along with you here on your Thursday. Busy couple days here on the station. Tonight we got Carolina Calls Coach Beamer making its return. 7 o'clock right here on the game. Tomorrow we'll be out at the Game Summer Golf Classic sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly the Nest and the Vista, all day long at Charwood Golf Club. And then tomorrow night the High School Scoreboard Show makes its return with Elijah Campbell and Justin Hall. So be sure to tune in for all that over the course of the next couple of days. At SEC Media Days right about a month ago, the conference announced a new policy in terms of fines for field and court stormings. Instead of a progression based on how many offenses you have, it'll be a flat $500,000 fee each and every time you violate the league's policy when it comes to that. Well, to prevent themselves from paying too much money, Arkansas has implemented a new field rushing policy for 2025. They will put a clock on the scoreboard once the game hits 0 against whoever the opponent is. And once that 3 minutes runs out and they allow the other team to get off the field and all that kind of stuff, they will then allow fans, the Razorback faithful, to storm the field. First of its kind type of thing. I don't know if it's going to work, but they're giving it a shot at least.
So, a few questions I have with this. And we mentioned the $500,000 fine. Does this essentially eliminate that from going into effect if you wait a certain amount of time? Because if so, why haven't teams been doing this for years?
I don't think it does. I think you're getting fined regardless.
Yeah. And again, is 3 minutes enough time to get everyone?
Well,
I guess maybe if they really enforce it.
I mean, look, if you're the losing team, I feel like 3 minutes is enough time to clear yourself off the field.
Keep in mind they do the alma mater though.
I just don't know if people are going to adhere to this. That's my thing. Is like, if you're jacked up about beating Texas or whoever, are you really going to be able to keep tens of thousands of people from running over the gate and getting on the field?
I mean, if you have again, I say if you have enough security, it should work. But we've seen what a South Carolina student section can do when they're all just jumbled up, ready to get out, and there's no stopping them. So I just don't know if people will abide by this at all.
I'm going to go the other way. I think you can make this fun.
Okay.
Countdown, music, build up.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
The running on the field, and you do avoid fines if you do this.
Okay, so you can't avoid the fine.
That's why they're
All
doing this.
All right.
To avoid fines. So
that has to be what it is.
So I mean, $500,000 is a lot of it's a lot of NIL money
In this climate?
That is.
Yeah, yeah.
In this economy?
I think you could actually build this thing up, as opposed to it. And here's what you got to do, as opposed to being like, "Don't storm the field, don't storm the field." You can be like, "Everybody, get ready to storm the field in 3 minutes."
You got.
Now, that would be sick.
Like build up.
Yeah.
That would
now
be
there
sick.
might be some other liability.
Sure.
Like you got to flash up. We are not. We are not liable for any injuries.
Make everyone sign waivers on the way in.
Yeah, well, you already have a waiver on your ticket, so I would just make sure that's in there. But yeah, I think you got to just make it fun as opposed to being like you can't storm the field.
Yeah. You get a DJ, the music playing, all the kinds of the lights if you're playing in a night game, obviously. And yeah, like make it a thing, a countdown, and then with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom, everybody goes out there. That's a good idea. Like you lean into it where it's not being seen, and it's not that it's a punishment, but you're basically saying, hold on, wait a minute, just chill for a second, so we can get everybody off the field. Like make people think it's like building up to the moment.
If you're South Carolina, you could play 2001.
Yes.
And have it
you can have fun
finish
with this.
Yes.
At the end of this, at 0 seconds. Like make it like it's part of the show, not like you're being yelled at by the principal.
Does Arkansas have a signature song or anything that we're aware of?
They just call hogs.
They just call you call the hogs for 3 minutes and then run on the field.
But here's the thing, though: is Arkansas even going to have an opportunity to? Because I mean,
they did this past year, didn't they?
They did against Tennessee.
They did against Tennessee.
Now
so nothing's impossible.
They play Notre Dame September 27th. It's a noon game. It's at home.
Yep.
That would probably be the one game I would say they could probably storm the field for. Because I mean, unless they want to storm the field for Alabama A&M or Arkansas State, A&M maybe. But those are really the two games I would say. Notre Dame and A&M that they could probably do it for.
Yeah, their games at Texas and LSU are on the road, so that obviously wouldn't work. But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that's the anticipation of like, hey, you got a team coming off a national championship appearance coming into town in a month, so better prepare for any possibility here.
Yeah, so, but I think this is really cool. I think it's something that could be good. Again, if it avoids the fine, then do it. Everyone should be doing this if that's the case.
Didn't Missouri try this on the fly in basketball last year?
They did, because
the coach got on and was like, wait until they leave, and then y'all can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So this will be a trend if it works at all.
So we'll see if Arkansas gets that opportunity. That'll do it for the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling Heating. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs coming up next here on the game.
Our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating, as always, the presenting sponsor of the Garnet Trust Hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We appreciate them. Justin Krantz, General Manager of the family-owned business over at Krantz Cooling and Heating. If you need any HVAC service at all for your home or your business, make sure you check them out. KrantzCooling.com. That's Krantz, cooling with a K, KrantzCooling.com. Or give their team a call, 803-672-3224. I can personally speak to how awesome they are because they've been out to my home. I send all my family and friends the recommendation to use Krantz. They can do the same for your home or business as well. Go to their website at KrantzCooling.com. You can actually text them if you have any questions. You can, of course, give them a call at 803-672-3224. Maintenance, installation, repairs, they can handle it all for you. Locally owned, family owned since 1983, KrantzCooling.com.
11 o'clock Thursday morning. Welcome in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris along with you here on the game. Only 10 days away from Carolina kicking off against Virginia Tech. But the news is plentiful today, as within the past about 10 to 15 minutes, we've gotten a little bit more insight into the future of South Carolina and its apparel provider. First reported by the Post and Courier, it does look like the Gamecocks are expected to be outfitted with the Nike swoosh coming up in 2026.
Yeah, shout out to Clonnie there. First report that, but I guess we can say confirmed as well here. And I think this is something, when you saw the BOT send out their announcement about the meeting for tomorrow and you saw apparel contract on here, everybody started buzzing, talking, what does that mean? Could this be Nike? I know that nothing is ever going to be 100% in terms of you take a big group of people and ask them, do you agree with this? But just seeing the reaction before people even knew what it was going to be, of the number of people saying, I hope this is Nike, I hope this is a change, I hope this is something different than what it's been the last decade plus, tells me that, I think there's people pretty excited about what this might mean for South Carolina.
Yeah, it was, we've written a lot about this lately because, and really it's been going on for a while, because everybody who paid some level of attention to Gamecock athletics knew, okay, hey, there's that deal out there. It expires in 2026. And then if you kind of dove into the contract, you're looking at the contract, you're looking at the landscape across college athletics. There have been some pretty significant moves in that space over the last, couple years, over the last several months, to where you kind of got the sense, hey, could the Gamecocks really look at making a move? And there are several layers to that. One is Under Armour is really pulling back from this space more.
Yep.
We all remember during COVID, they had renegotiated or attempted to renegotiate some of their deals. They did have a pretty good deal with South Carolina. That was a good deal when it was signed. It was a good deal when it was renewed for that 10-year period, all things considered. But South Carolina, after Auburn switched back, was the only SEC school still with Under Armour. So being on that island, you kind of wondered, okay, will there be a change there? We saw Tennessee move back to Adidas. We've seen a lot of things in this space, and we've also seen the NIL component come in, not to mention some very important players in Gamecock athletics have some pretty significant ties to Nike.
Yep.
And I feel like you said, Wes, or you didn't say this exactly, Nike's kind of been this white whale for some Gamecock fans. It used to be basketball. I think the shoe company influence on the game of basketball and recruiting has maybe diminished some in the NIL era, but Dawn Staley has been tied to Nike, has had deals with Nikes, dating back to her time as a player, so for years. Then you look at the fact Jeremiah Donati, when he was at TCU, Nike school, he re-signed as AD with Nike. The new assistant or deputy athletics director, Wesley Millette, at UC Riverside, worked out a deal with BSN and Nike. So you saw all these ties, and you kind of got the sense, just looking behind the scenes, talking to some people, that this might be something that was happening. Now, there was some, I think, hurdles to overcome to be able to get this done when they're going to get it done, because contractually there were some things where Under Armour had an exclusive negotiating window. They had the right to first refusal. But clearly, I think those things have been worked out to where now they're going to be in position to be able to announce this thing.
And it seemed like, you mentioned Under Armour slowly pulling out of college athletics. It seems like they're very fixated on having the Notre Dame brand, which they signed to an extension not that long ago, as maybe kind of their only one. Because, again, with Carolina moving to Nike for 2026, that drops us down to only 5 schools. So Notre Dame, as far as Power 4 goes, Notre Dame, Arizona State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, and then Maryland, Northwestern, and Utah, Maryland, Northwestern Wisconsin, Notre Dame are the 5 schools they would have left. So again, they've been scaling back a lot. Seems like the right time, and obviously we don't know the details of the contract as of yet. That's obviously what we'll get the confirmation coming up on tomorrow. But look, you're not going to have the same kind of deal that Texas and Ohio State have with Nike, but something hopefully that benefits you not only from the apparel side of things, but also like NIL type stuff too, like Tennessee's getting with Adidas is hopefully going to be baked in too.
Yeah, and I'd imagine Under Armour will stick with Maryland as well as a flagship there.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about this deal. I think if you go back in time and look at where South Carolina was before, you look at the original decisions. I mean, first of all, man, you were going from Russell Athletic to Under Armour.
Disrespect intended?
Disrespect. You know what? No disrespect intended. For what it was, Russell Athletic, it was what it was. And it was at a time before there was just so much flash to the college game and before it became professionalized and that there's just money everywhere in the college game. So for what, Russell Athletic was at the time, it was a jersey provider.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was, this is what the guys are going to wear when they go play football. The next step in all this was, hey, this is your brand that the fans are going to wear the polo for to the game. This is your brand that we're gonna try to sell them on getting the shoes and the workout apparel, and it became a grander thing than just, hey, we need 3 different jersey combinations.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so when Under Armour in South Carolina first did a deal, this was a massive, huge win for South Carolina at the time. And then, you look 10 years ago, that the newest deal, it was all about money. And, which provider is willing to give the biggest deal? And, I think certainly we've talked about the need for additional revenue streams for every school, and certainly you put South Carolina in that bubble as well. But to me, and we'll see what the specifics are, we'll try to get some background on it. This to me feels like a deal that goes beyond that. This is not you saying, hey, we're going to pinch every penny we have to. This feels to me like, what do we think is the best provider? What do our fans want? What's best for the overall profile of the University of South Carolina and the athletics? What do the student athletes want?
Yeah.
What do recruits want? So I obviously don't know what either side was offering, and maybe what Under Armour could offer has diminished because of where that product is. I don't know, but this feels to me much like a much deeper decision than just saying, oh, let's just take whoever's going to give us the biggest contract.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. And if you compare some of the deals, like a lot of the deals are actually not public. Like they've run them through a foundation, so they don't announce the terms. They don't announce, it's not subject to FOIA. But the ones that you do know a bit about based on what's been reported or even what's been announced, Tennessee, and this wasn't reported, at first it was about $20 million a year. That wasn't true, apparently. The total value is like maybe $100 million. Or what does that count? They're apparently, from what I've heard from Adidas, not getting product. It's a lot of cash. It's a lot of NIL initiative promises, which is cool. But then you remember, okay, well, you have to actually buy the stuff.
Yes.
I mean, it costs a ton. I've heard millions of dollars, maybe like $7-8 million a year. South Carolina's other Under Armour contract, yes, you got a nice chunk of cash. That was included. And you got some product. Inevitably, you end up buying product with some of that cash, right? So it kind of depends, like, what is the best? There's a lot of ways to work a deal. Kentucky, I think they're just getting product and royalties from Nike. What will South Carolina's look like? I don't know for sure. One thing I do think you should probably set your expectations to so you don't get pre-mad about the announcement. I don't think you're going to see some huge dollar figure as far as cash, there is some, here's a big word, cognitive dissonance between, like, what you can, like if you're like, oh, we need money, like we keep hearing administrators talk about revenue generation. True, but remember, you got to buy the product, so Nike stuff is pretty costly, I think. So if you're getting a whole slew of Nike product and it's stuff that athletes want and fans want, then that's good. And then my estimation is you're probably going to get a pretty nice royalty structure on this thing too. So when Nike's selling Gamecock branded stuff, when you buy it, that's also giving a kickback to the university.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that meeting coming up tomorrow morning with the Board of Trustees to finalize all that, and we'll get all those details of the contract tomorrow as well. But coming up next, we're going to be talking to Jim Cavale of athletes.org. That is the group that is helping to push for collective bargaining in college sports. They had a meeting with several high-ranking members of college sports a couple weeks ago in Nashville, which we talked to Pete Nakos of On 3 about the other week when we were at Firehouse, or when we were out at Firehouse Sub. So we'll get some more insight from Jim Cavale coming up next into how all that what's working, what that means for the future of college athletics as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along on your Thursday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. It's our Ed West Mitchell, Chris Clark, along with you here on your Thursday on the game. We always love talking about what's going on the field in college athletics, but also plenty of news off the field, especially this past offseason. Joining us now on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines to discuss what the future of college athletics might be from athletes.org. It is Jim Cavall. Jim, first of all, appreciate you taking your time for us this morning. First of all, tell people a little bit about who you are and what exactly athletes.org is.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, first of all. And, I'm a guy who used to be a college athlete a long time ago from New York, ended up going down to Alabama to play college baseball. And I've been an entrepreneur in the sports and fitness industry for 20 years, and most recently built Influencer and Teamworks, which is a software company that most college athletic departments use, and a lot of pro teams for everything from NIL activity to building brands on social media for the athletes to communicating and scheduling their lives. So worked with the schools for, years, for about a decade, and started athletes.org in 2023 because I'm a firm believer that the only way we can have rules and structure in college athletics, whether it's transfer rules, compensation rules, academic requirements, eligibility limits, is you need collective bargaining. You need a partnership between college athletes and their schools. And so we're building the vehicle for the college athletes, the Players Association for College Athletes, through athletes.org. And we have 5,000 members that are current college athletes playing all kinds of sports at all kinds of schools, but the majority of our members play power conference football and basketball.
Jim, Chris here. Thanks so much again for taking your time. So right off the bat here, I know that you have communicated, and people should follow you on Twitter at Jim Cavall, on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days, for your insights. But I know that you communicate with both sides, right? You obviously have athletes.org. You're in communication with athletes all the time, but you've also talked to player personnel people, GMs, coaches, et cetera. And am I wrong in that it seems like people do want to move in this direction ultimately? What are the holdups?
Yeah, it's a great point. And I appreciate the plug on Twitter, and anybody that wants to follow and engage, whether it's X or Instagram, I love to do that. So please give me a follow, and happy to talk. As far as where we are, when I launched this with Brandon Copeland, my co-founder and partner, who's a 10-year NFL vet, voted on the 2020 NFL CBA as a player, we set out and launched it, and we didn't know what the reaction would be. It was August 2023. It's about 2 years ago. And I can tell you a lot of ADs that I was close with when I was at Teamworks and Influencer were not happy with me when I launched it. Some saw the vision, but many didn't. But if you fast forward 2 years later, self-settlement finally gets done, and everybody's seeing there's still a tremendous amount of chaos. There are no transfer rules. Transfer rules will probably be tested even further. I think you'll see an athlete transfer in the middle of a season, try to play for another team. There are no eligibility rules. Eligibility limits continue to get tested. We saw that as recent as this year. Now Diego Pavia playing an extra year, and other players getting injunctions as well. There is no cap. It wasn't collectively bargained with the House settlement, so you really can't have an anti-circumvention system like the College Sports Commission is trying to do. So collectives are still going to inflate this cap to as much as we're hearing $40 million for a roster. And so those things have gotten a lot of the leaders from ADs down to coaches and GMs to say, we know we need collective bargaining. How can we get it done? And the biggest thing slowing us down is there has to be two entities that collectively bargain. There's the Players Association, like the NFLPA and football, pro, but there's the NFL. That's the league. And the NFL and the NFLPA negotiate the collective bargaining agreement that becomes all the rules. And there is no clear entity to be the league for the teams to be a part of to bargain. Is it the SEC? Is it the Power Four? Is it all of FBS? That part is a big reason that we're not at a place where it's actually happening. Another thing is there's a huge, enormous naivete at the AD and president level about collective bargaining from a political standpoint. Presidents at schools, mainly in southern states, but any red state that's a right-to-work state, thinks, well, we can't collectively bargain. We're in a right-to-work state. You can't unionize here. We're not pro-union here. This has nothing to do with that. South Carolina football players would not be collectively bargaining with the University of South Carolina. They'd be collectively bargaining with a central entity that is the league. And that's why Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, like, he's not a big labor union guy, but he doesn't care that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers players collectively bargain, because they don't collectively bargain with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They collectively bargain with the NFL. And so getting presidents and ADs to understand there are no political concerns about this and that this will bring structure, and their hunger that keeps growing for structure has us closer than we've ever been. But there still are steps that have to be done to get there.
Hey, Jim, this is Wes. Appreciate you hopping on. I was reading on athletes.org, and you probably spoke to a little bit of this already, but you guys spoke with and kind of polled some of the guys that are right there in the battles with all this and have to deal with everything you've just talked about on a day-to-day. It says on your website here, 24 college football general managers. And so for people that don't know who are listening, these are your director of player personnel type guys. These are the guys that are recruiting the rosters, trying to keep the rosters intact. What, maybe if you can tell us, were some takeaways, just generally speaking, that most of the folks in that group kind of all agreed with, I guess?
Well, I think, it starts with the fact that 100% of them voted that they want a collective bargaining agreement. So, they're all there in Nashville where we met, and we met in a private setting, and it was a meeting that was scheduled to be for 3 hours. It went for 5 till midnight on Sunday, August 3rd. And there's a ton of back and forth on a lot of other issues because there wasn't 100% agreement necessarily, but there was always majority agreement on everything from how we structure transfer rules, how we structure eligibility rules, do we have rookie caps with incentives, veteran bonuses, and all the topics that we cultivated a conversation around, we've talked to our players about. We met with our players via player reps from 53 different power conference schools at the CFP in Atlanta at the beginning of the year. And we talked about the same topics with them. So we're able to take the data we had from meetings like that with players, polling players on the athletes.org member app, and we were able to say, hey, here's the player's perspective on these things. As a GM, what's your perspective? And the biggest summation would be they are closer than you would think on almost every issue. And so I don't think getting a CBA done is going to be, the most difficult thing in the world when it comes to what the final set of rules are in the first ever CBA. It's more about getting everybody in a room. And that's hard to do right now because there's a lot of politics.
Well, Jim, what is the reason? So I always find it strange. I know you talk about this a lot too, and when I'm following your work and your thoughts on this whole deal. When I see meetings and congressional hearings and just thoughts, right, that are put out there by administrators, even some coaches, I'm like, where are the athletes? Like, I don't see the athletes at the table. So I guess my question for you is, why are some folks so quick to not include the thoughts of athletes? Is it because they're trying to hang on to power? It's because the power balance has shifted? Like, what is your view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. If there's not a recognized union and there's not a collective bargaining agreement, the athletes will never have an official voice in anything. The schools and the leadership of college athletics has always looked at the players when it comes to key issues and said, we'll take whatever we get them, because this is just a stop along the way, and they're going to end up going to the NFL. And even if they won't go to the NFL, they think they will. So they'll take whatever we offer them. And that has always been the mindset. I mean, look at the EA Sports video game last year. Okay. You had a video game do $1 billion in sales. In the NFL, the royalty is 15%, which means $150 million of that money would have went to the players. Okay. In college, the players took $600 and a copy of the game, and they validated the assumption of leadership, which is, they'll take whatever they can get, right? They'll think it's cool to be in the game, right? They're doing the same thing right now with the CFP. Rumors of a 28-team playoff, but nobody's talking about, what do the players think about that? Are they going to make sure that they get extra revenue sharing for all these extra games? Because that's going to be more money for the schools. are there health or safety concerns with playing 16, 17 games in the season when college football used to have 10 regular season games and one bowl game, and now we're up to that? No, there's none of that talk. And there won't be any official involvement or collaboration with athletes until you have collective bargaining.
Again, talking to Jim Cavale of athletes.org. Got about 3 more minutes here before we have to hit a break. But with all this, there's steps being taken and things are in the works. But if you had to put a timetable on how long it would take for an actual CBA to happen in college sports, what would that look like?
People ask me that all the time. And, we're building a unique business for me. I mean, this is my 4th company, but it's very different than the others. We don't make any money right now. We don't charge member dues to the athletes, and we spend a lot. We have a team of 12 people, and we're going out there signing up athletes, giving them benefits like free legal, free accounting, agent background checks, stuff like that. So it's like we're spending a lot of money, and we're investing with the mindset that this is something that is going to take until 2030 to really get to. So I think that's kind of the max is like, I think it's the max is 5 years away. I could see it happening in a year. I think there's going to be so much chaos in the next 4 or 5 months with college football. I think you're going to see the fact that they're calling these revenue sharing deals, NIL deals, when we all know they're pay for play. And so these contracts are papered up in a way that's going to make it really hard for coaches to hold athletes accountable. I think it's going to be a huge issue. I think that athletes are going to transfer and test the transfer rules more and more. There is no portal technically. It's just it's a concept. So when you hear transfer portal and which dates and all that, just realize the NCAA has come out and said you technically can unenroll and enroll at a school anytime you want. And so those are just 2 of many issues. Eligibility is going to continue to get tested. We know fans are not necessarily keen to the idea of players playing 6, 7, 8 years in college. And so I think a lot of chaos happening and the House settlement continuing to be tested and not be what people thought it was going to be could get them to the table by this time next year. So it's a 1 to 5 year range.
He is Jim Cavale of athletes.org. You can follow him on Twitter and also follow athletes.org as we'll certainly keep an eye on everything you guys are doing as the nature and the landscape of college sports continues to change. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Again, we'll continue on with the Gamecocks Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs and get into what the coordinators had to say yesterday when talking to the media coming up next as your Thursday rolls along here on The Game.
All right, guys, tell you about our friends over at Firehouse Subs. Always delicious, always fast, always convenient because there's 17 different locations of Firehouse Subs all around the Midlands. No matter where you are, there's going to be a Firehouse Subs close to you. You can start your order, pick up, or even delivery by going to firehousesubs.com or my favorite method, our favorite method around here on the show. Use the app. You can register for a free account, earn yourself some rewards on future purchases. And that way, when you use the Rapid Rescue to go, anytime you walk into the Firehouse Subs near you, your sandwich will be ready to go. Breakfast, they don't have breakfast, Wes. We hope they do. Lunch, dinner, catering. Maybe they'll add breakfast one day. Heck, who knows? You can check them out at firehousesubs.com. The Smokin' Barbecue Triple Stack is available in the classic or the Carolina Gold barbecue sauce. The hot sauce bar is back and all your Firehouse Subs favorites. 17 locations around the Midlands. Firehouse Subs.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, West, and Chris with you on your Thursday here on the game. Guys, we've had so much happening in this hour, I almost forgot about our trivia question for the day.
Ooh, me too.
Which
Tyler,
you just
Tyler,
took the
Tyler.
lead yesterday. Hey, we had news that broke at the top of the hour, so we had to hit that.
Are we talking about Irma Little League at some point, too?
We're going to talk about Irma Little League.
You're
Don't
going to
worry,
put in
we'll
the
get there.
last segment.
Well, we can do it in this segment if you want
Okay.
to. We got to get trivia.
Okay.
The last segment, Wes, counts just as much
There's
as the
nothing
first
wrong
one.
with the last
shorter.
segment, Wes.
It's shorter.
It is a little shorter,
That's just how the hour works out, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we'll see how long we take for this trivia question. How about that?
'Kay.
So, you guys recommended Sky Moore yesterday.
Oh, crap.
So that you guys literally said that's what you wanted. So that's where I
No.
went.
He said that.
Well, you
well,
at
you
least,
said you weren't going to study.
You said
I barely did.
you at least knew where we were going with it then.
You did study, though.
I say I took a short refresher.
Okay.
All right. So Sky Moore is tied for the school record with interceptions in a career with Bo Davies.
Yeah.
What is the number of interceptions that record is?
14.
You got a different answer, Wes?
We didn't do the thing where we
Yeah,
texted.
I
our
mean,
answer.
that is the answer. I feel like he said it first, so
Will you award him the point for
he's
that?
running away with it.
Okay.
Were you going to say 14? Be honest.
I'll give y'all my completely honest answer. I did not study.
Okay.
If he hadn't have said that, I was going to say 13 or 14.
Okay.
Like, I knew it was one of the two.
Well, what would you pick? Because Tyler would have said pick one.
No, it was going to be 50-50, so...
So
it's-
you'll grant him
he gets
the point.
the point. He obviously knew it, and
All
he
right.
said it quickly.
Well, here's your chance for half a bonus point. Can you tell me what team his first interception was against and what team his last interception was against?
Oh, goodness.
So the first one came in 2013, last one in 2017.
Mm.
Can you repeat the question
Yes.
in the form of a question?
Over his 14 interceptions in his career, can you tell me who his first interception was against and who his last interception was against? Just need two team names.
14 to 17. I have no idea. Chris, go ahead. Run away with this thing.
I don't know it. I feel like I read something that might have been his first career pick, and I might be totally. I'm going to say 2017. I'm going to say Wofford and Clemson.
Close. Wofford was the last one in 2017. Mississippi State was the first one in 2013.
Okay. That's really not that close.
Well, you got half of it.
I named a team in the wrong context.
Well,
Mississippi State in 2013.
was his first
That was
interception.
the Dak Prescott game. He was playing quarterback.
Yep.
Carolina just
Didn't Carolina
whooped-
smoke
just smoked him. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I would have never.
Well,
Yeah.
you've at least got the point for the day.
Okay.
So there's that. All right, now we will head on up to Williamsport and talk about this happening last night.
That one is to right, and it is past the right fielder, diving Layfeld. One is in. Here comes the winning run. Andrew Bogan does it. South Carolina shocks South Dakota, and they win it 7-6.
Just when you think you'd seen it all, Irmo down in the bottom of the seventh after surrendering a ton of runs in the top of the seventh, makes a miraculous comeback to once again keep their hopes alive as they continue on, now heading into the semifinals in the U.S. bracket, coming up later on tonight after defeating South Dakota yesterday.
This has to be one of the best games I have ever seen, regardless of level, regardless of sport, regardless of any other factor. Just to even get to that point, they were able to. They were down 1-0. They had some phenomenal at bats, including one of the best pressure-packed ABs I've ever seen in the sixth inning. Fouled off multiple pitches, took multiple pitches. They were all balls, too. Like, there were a couple of somewhat close calls, but...
You're talking about Gibson, the first baseman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plastic Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought the umpires have actually been very impressive. And you could see that South Dakota was trying to maybe steal a strike here or there. Like they were trying to almost, like the catcher kept celebrating a strike 3, I feel like. And, that kid, that's one of the best ABs I've ever seen. So you get it tied up. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, you got the winning run on third. Like, you got to go ahead and just win this thing now if you're going to win it. They don't, of course. And then I feel like you see this happen in baseball sometimes. A game just breaks open. And you're going, man, that was a good run. But these guys had other ideas, man. With that big of a cushion, I mean, who thought they still had a chance in this game? Were you watching it live?
Yeah. I mean,
I know Chris was. I thought it was
5 runs. It's like,
I thought there was
there's no
shot. And until they loaded the bases and they basically got it to, I guess, about 6-4, I was like, oh, this pressure just completely shifted. And they did it without the superstar.
mm-hmm.
Struck out.
Yep.
Yeah.
He struck him with the bases loaded, if I remember correctly. 'Cause he was the first out of the 7th inning. Yeah.
Giuliotti, is that how you say his name?
Giuletti.
Giuletti.
Yeah.
I felt bad, man, because they were like, they were throwing that guy junk. Like, they were like, we are not going to throw him a strike.
Yeah.
And even with the bases loaded. And, I mean, they basically are treating him like Barry Bonds up there. So, man, incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because when I was watching, anytime I watch the games, the level of play is high, for that, like, age group. And then you'll see, like, a kid getting really upset on the field, and you're like, oh, yeah, they're, like, 10 to 12 years old.
Right.
You got kind of, I think 12's the upper limit of what you can be at this particular league, at this age group. And, to have that resolve, and clearly, like, I know a lot of the parents on that team. I know Preston Ware. I know his parents. They're good friends of ours. And so I know how a lot of those kids are raised. They have great families. Clearly, the coaching staff has done, Dave Bogan and his staff, they've done a great job with them. It's cool hearing how the coaches talk to them. He gave his little kind of speech, huddled the guys around there before that last inning. And, I mean, those ABs were huge. I mean, to sit there and have the patience that they showed, the eye that they should, like Jacob Gibson, his eye on that at bat that tied the game, that gave them a chance to keep playing, was huge. Preston Ware, he drew the walk on some pitches that were close, where you're like, I don't even blame you if you're going up there hacking, at some stuff that's close to the plate, or even something that's not close to the plate, was just big. So the game-winning hit, the bases were still loaded at that point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's 6-5 at that point. I did go into that inning saying, good run. That's kind of good run.
Sure.
Man, bummer. And then you kind of start, okay, they got something cooking. When it's 6-5 with 1 out and somebody else coming to the plate, I was like, they're going to win this game.
Yeah.
You kind of just felt like it. So I agree with Wes. Like, it was one of the most entertaining games that I've watched. A lot of sports in my life. It was extremely entertaining.
And again, the efficiency. I mean, the South Dakota left fielder threw that perfect ball to the catcher at home, and thankfully, Armo's third base coach didn't send him, or he would have been out.
He would have been toast.
You just saw great, and again, you don't get this far without being good, right? Just the efficiency from 11 and 12-year-olds was something to marvel at during that game last night.
Yeah, you do see a couple where you're like, that guy's not supposed to be able to do that.
Sure.
Like, and you see that with the pitchers a lot. I mean, these guys throwing 75 miles an hour. Clearly, they probably should not even be throwing on a 40-foot mound anymore. Like, they've kind of grown up. But that throw, because his momentum was not coming forward.
Yeah.
Is the crazy thing. And yet, dude, credit the third base coach, because I would have been sending that guy until my arm fell off, because you're going, this is our one chance to tie the game.
Yep.
And he was sending him, and then he put the brakes on, and the kid listened, and that would have been a very, you're talking about split-second decision. So kudos to everybody involved.
Yep.
Awesome.
Rematch tonight with Nevada for the chance to play in the U.S. Championship coming up this weekend tonight at 7 o'clock on ESPN. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on The Game.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunate things have happened in the edge room where our guys have, it's been some very freak injuries. Nothing combative, but just a lot of stuff that happens. But as far as trying to make sure our guys, we still have Dylan, we still have BT, we still have guys that are really good players. But obviously, losing the depth is gonna, it hurts you down the line in regards to practice and stuff like that. But trying to replace that stuff from last year, it's a brand new year, so we're trying to make sure that everyone's involved. It's not just the edge room that gets sacks. It's obviously the D tackles, linebackers, DBs.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tire West Coast wrapping up the hour here on your Thursday. That, of course, was Clayton White talking in the media yesterday, touching on something that we obviously spent time talking about yesterday, coming away from Tuesday, where we found out George Wilson was going to be out for a good while, if not the entire season for South Carolina, which is another injury in that edge room that, again, you got bodies in there, but you're already starting kind of down a couple guys to begin the season. So an area that we're going to have to watch pretty closely in terms of the health of the guys in there to make sure that it can be as successful as possible. And, again, that's probably high on the list of concerns for Clayton White going into the season as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you were already replacing guys, too, and now you're in that spot where you're just we talk about this every year. You don't want to start kind of ticking away at your depth this early, and that is exactly what has happened, unfortunately, for South Carolina at that position. It seems like there's always one spot that gets hit harder than the others, and typically it's not going to be the same spot from year to year, but this year, at this point, it is the edge room. We talked about it, George Wilson really being brought in as kind of that designated pass rusher role that some teams will use. And so I do think this is a loss. I think they can be okay there, but they don't need to stack more injuries at that position.
Yeah, that's the key. It's always a key, right? But it gets to a point where you're like, okay, you can not really afford to lose anybody else of significance here. And, Clayton White pointed out yesterday, too, that Quay Dodd and Anthony Addison, they brought in 3 freshman edges. One of them's already out. Kabi Saki Pra? Is that how we're saying it? Yeah, he's out.
Your guess is as good as mine.
There you go.
I said Kobe, but I may
Kobe,
be wrong.
yeah.
I think it is Kobe.
I was more worried about the last name, and then I botched the
Kobe
first
Saki
one.
Pra.
It's like one.
KSP.
KSP. Thank you, Tyler. Yes, efficiency. KSP. He's out, kind of in that same category, right? Like out for a good while, not going to be anytime soon. And Anthony Addison and Quay Dodd were both on campus in spring. Probably not counting on them to play a bunch of snaps, but did they get a stronger look now? Clayton White alluded to that. When you look at what Carolina did last year, they really played 5 guys. Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard obviously got most of the snaps. Then you had BT, Brian Thomas Jr. He was kind of your third guy. He took the most behind the 2 starters. And then you had Gilbert Edmond and Des Umeozulu. J.T. Garrett battled some injuries and things like that. So those were kind of your main guys. So Kennard's not in the picture, of course. Neither is Gilbert Edmond. To me, it's can you stay healthy and can you find 4 to 5 guys in your rotation that between your starters and your primary backups you feel pretty good about. And I think that is still on the table, frankly, while still recognizing you don't have Kyle Kennard out there anymore.
Can you mix and match a little bit? I think that was already part of the plan. Mix and match. George Wilson in there on passing downs. Clowney, even with the Clowney last name, is actually a little bit better of a kind of run stopper at this point in his career coming in. So I wonder, are you able to mix and match a little bit in terms of down distance opponent, stuff like that? Do we see a Jaron Willis who is a linebacker but has pass rush ability off the edge, get out there at times? What about an Anthony Addison? This is a guy who kind of doesn't quite look like he has that SEC every down size yet, but we did hear his name start to pop up in the spring. He's someone who is very active off the edge, does have that good first step you're looking for, is willing to sell out to make plays and get to the quarterback. This maybe, if he's ready, this maybe opens up a window for someone like Anthony Addison to be used maybe in that same way that we had talked about George Wilson. Get him out there on third downs, try to put him in situations that are maybe fitting for his skill set, I think.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have asked, will Carolina move anybody? Interestingly, they've got some guys in that linebacker room, actually 3 of them in total, that all played edge in high school, at least part of their career or even most of their high school career. I mean, we haven't picked up on that yet, Wes. Could it happen? I don't know. But I go back to your point about Jaron Willis. This is a guy who, when you look at his skill set, what does he do well? rush the passer. And I think you go back to what Clayton White said about, hey, we're trying to get everybody involved. Is that something that's already on the staff's radar with the changes that they have up front going into the 2025 season? Maybe so.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll talk more about this kind of stuff tomorrow as we wrap up the week. Again, we'll be live at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia for the Game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly the Nest in the Vista, all day long tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you out there as well. That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Coming up next, halftime show. Myself and Jack Belcher here on The Game.